Nania.
We have lots of questions from our viewers.
All right.
Okay, the first one. Is there a way to unite the unconscious and the subconscious minds with the conscious mind so that we can be consciously aware of all three? And would there be an advantage to our physical experience that way?
As long as you are physical, you will not completely dissolve all three, but you can allow them to work more efficiently together and mirror the physical version of a higher mind. But while you are physical, all three are somewhat necessary so that you can experience timing and processing of whatever information your conscious mind truly needs at any given moment. So there will always be some slight holdback, some slight process of funneling the information that's necessary at any given moment through. But yes, you can allow, by accelerating yourself, by raising your frequency, the barriers to become less solid so that they can work together, all three divisions can work together much more efficiently, much more fluidly.
Okay. And this person says, I'm interested in why we are specifically among all the other options for who or what we could be as a unique expression. So I guess why we are who we are. How is it possible for us to have preferences if we all come from unconditional love?
Because it is unconditional by the very definition of the word, you can be whatever you choose to be. Therefore, you choose whatever theme of exploration at any given moment your consciousness believes will allow it to experience what it needs for its own growth, whatever it is interested in exploring in that sense. So you have the freedom to choose whatever you wish.
Do we have the option of choosing to come to Earth to do negative things?
You do have that option, but again, remember that when you say negative, a lot of times you will choose negative mechanisms to do positive things. For example, the idea that you are limiting your consciousness in order to have a physical experience is a positive utilization of a negative mechanism because you are imposing a limitation for various positive reasons, for experiential reasons, on your broader consciousness. So yes, in the way that you meant the question, it is possible that you may see that someone doing something that would be considered to be negative could inspire others to act positively and perhaps change things in a more positive direction by having something negative to push against.
Is there an optimal way to meditate? And is there like a best length? And is 10 minutes just as effective as 1 hour? Or?
Not necessarily. It takes about 15 minutes for the neurological pathways of your brain to rewire themselves effectively in a lasting way. So the idea of whatever form of meditation you are attracted to would be the best thing for you, the best permission slip. And we would say optimally, allow yourself at least 15 minutes. You can go for longer. You can go for an hour. Again, it depends upon how you decide to adjust it that works best for you. But at the very minimum, 15 minutes is usually required for most physical individuals to allow for the appropriate amount of rewiring of the brain to be effective in terms of making the changes that you typically seek to make.
Okay, thank you. Following up from the guilt and responsibility transmission, is guilt always an indication that there is an energy alignment necessary, or can that mechanism get out of whack a bit? Is it possible for us to have a habit of unnecessarily being guilty when we feel guilty about things that we don't even need to really be adjusted about? And if so, how can we know the difference and clean up the confusion and the energy alignment mechanism can work as intended?
The sensation you call guilt, that you recognize as guilt, is always an indication that there is a misalignment within you or a negative belief at work. Otherwise, it's just awareness and recognition of something. It doesn't necessarily have an experience of guilt attached to it if you're just aware of something from a neutral position. The idea of being guilty when you know you have no need to be guilty in that sense is one of the results of actually giving in to the negative definition, the negative belief system, because again, it keeps attempting to perpetuate itself and thus continues to perpetuate the guilty feeling, even when you intellectually know there's no reason for you to experience guilt. So that is simply a residual side effect of, or an echo, if you will, of having given in to the idea of the negative and fear-based belief that creates the initial guilt feeling to begin with. The idea, again, is to recognize that it comes from a fear-based belief, to explore and investigate yourself with honesty about what that belief could be, and truly get to the core understanding of what the fear-based belief is telling you as a story, to allow yourself to really see the details in that story and recognize that they are generally nonsensical when you get to the heart of the matter. That is how you can dissolve any reason to keep perpetuating the idea of guilt and allow yourself to let that go.
So as an example, survivor guilt, is there a way to transmute that? Or is that happening at such a deep level? And it seems a little different than normal guilt.
It is not. It is not different because it still is the result of harboring a negative belief that you could have done something, and in some senses it robs other individuals who may have passed on of their choices. So to be guilty about the fact that you are still alive while someone else may have died is, again, nonsensical, because you are not allowing yourself or allowing them to have made their choices from a higher level. You're not trusting the timing of what's going on. Now, this doesn't mean that the idea of what causes the death cannot be mitigated, cannot be changed in the future for other people. But the idea of whatever it is that does happen, even if it results in someone else's death, must simply be recognized as the result of belief systems or themes or choices that they have made, even unconsciously. And to be guilty about being someone who remains alive, in some sense, dishonors the choices that they made, instead of utilizing those to make differences in your own life and in your own understanding about your connection to those who have passed on into spirit. So survivor guilt, again, is simply a residual recognition of the fact that you've been holding on to fear-based beliefs and negative beliefs about your own worthiness to be alive, about the choices you are making. And it can be used in a positive way to correct anything that might have been a misunderstanding, a misinterpretation, or a miscalculation in your own life. But the idea of holding on to the guilt does not allow you to move forward, nor does it allow you to develop a recognizable relationship with those who have passed on in a way that can serve you and in a way that honors them for their choices.
You talk sometimes about how there are consequences to our choices and actions. Yeah. How can we hear the word consequences so that we don't perceive it in a negative or punitive way? Sometimes I fear consequences catching up with me from past mistakes, even though I've already healed, learned from them, and brought myself back into alignment. How can I release that fear and work with this teaching in a more positive way?
There's an oxymoron in the question you have asked, because if you have actually healed yourself and brought yourself back into alignment, there would not be the definition of consequences in a punitive manner. So when you say that you are still experiencing a punitive definition of a simple neutral consequence of an action taken, then you're not in alignment. You have not brought yourself back into alignment. There is still a fear-based belief at the heart of your experience. But look at it this way. A consequence is simply the neutral result of an action taken. Let us say, for example, you simply drop a ceramic cup. The consequence of dropping it may be that it actually shatters on the floor. Is the shattering on the floor a punishment? No. It is just the neutral consequences of having dropped the cup in a gravitational field. The fact that you would say, oh, I am being punished now because the cup shattered, is simply the result of a nonsensical negative belief system. So by recognizing the nonsense in the idea of defining something that is simply the neutral result of an action taken, but keeping upon it the idea of self-judgment, then you can more easily separate the concept of punitive definitions from a neutral consequence.
Can you tell us the best way to follow the higher mind? How can we trust and understand its messages? And is it possible to follow the messages of the higher mind without first working with the shadows of the subconscious mind?
Again, this is a slight misunderstanding of the formula that we have shared with all of you. Following your passion is what allows you to determine what to let go of so that you can more readily follow the higher mind's guidance, which comes to you through passion. Remember, the toolkit that is contained when you act on your passion contains the reflective mirror that brings to your attention the idea of any belief within you that is out of alignment with your true vibration. So by acting on your passion and allowing the ideas to come up that may be out of alignment and working with it to let it go, you actually give yourself more ability to have more discernment and deal with these ideas of negative belief systems more easily in the future. So it is the very act of following your passion that brings these things to your attention, because bringing these things to your attention is part of your passion.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Does listening to subliminal messages or a recording of affirmations while you sleep in order to tap into your subconscious mind have any benefit to us in creating the experiences we prefer? Can it expedite us raising our vibration to match the experiences we prefer to have, as having good health or abundance or money? Or is it just another permission slip that will work for some and not for others? Does the subconscious mind need a permission slip?
Yes, it is a permission slip, because everything in physical reality is a permission slip. Will it work for some and not for others? Yes. Is it effective for some? Yes, because it is a permission slip that they've gravitated to, been attracted to, and it is the attraction that usually indicates it will work for the person who is attracted to use that particular permission slip. So in that sense, it is a simple answer of knowing that it is something you are attracted to, that at least will temporarily work for you while you are attracted to it, and can be effective for those that align with it in terms of their belief system. But it's up to you to recognize also that it may change for you. So go with the flow. Whatever it is you're attracted to as a permission slip, by all means use it for the length of time you are attracted to it. When you're no longer attracted to use it, you'll find that something else will work for you. That's part of your evolutionary growth.
Can you mention some of the ways that our higher mind communicates with us?
It communicates primarily through, again, the sensation of objects or situations and circumstances that contain more excitement and passion or attractiveness or curiosity than any other. And it amplifies these things and delivers them quite often through the auspices of the fact that everything is connected, meaning synchronicity.
Right, so synchronistic symbols would also be communications from the higher mind?
Yes.
Belief, does that mean that we should ask ourselves why we have it and try to eliminate that belief by waiting for an answer that doesn't make any sense to us? Or is there other...
Well, you're not waiting. It's an active process of self-investigation to allow yourself to render the belief nonsensical. It doesn't just happen on its own, because if you don't do anything about it, if you don't investigate it, if you don't look deeply within yourself with honesty and curiosity and a willingness to change, then the negative belief will simply keep perpetuating itself. So it's not about waiting for it to make no sense. It's about actively seeking ways and understanding ways in which it simply no longer makes sense to you. One way is to look around in your reality, on your planet, and see if there's someone doing something similar in their passion as to what you would find also passionate about, exciting about doing, and recognize what it is that's different between you that allows them to do it, but not you. It is in that difference you will find the difference in your definitions, and then perhaps it will stand out more clearly why the definition for you is nonsensical, because if they can do it, why can't you?
So are the beliefs in the unconscious mind or the subconscious mind, these negative beliefs?
They're in the conscious mind, sometimes in the subconscious mind or unconscious mind, but they actually originate within the conscious mind, because the idea of those negative beliefs is not natural to your greater being. It's things that are learned and ingrained within you in the conscious world, in the conscious reality. Again, either by your circumstances and situations, your parents, your friends, your schooling, your society. These are all introduced into the conscious mind. Aspects of these then beliefs, negative beliefs, filter into your subconscious and unconscious mind when you are given perhaps contradictory information that you don't know how to process, don't know how to handle. So you store them in the subconscious and unconscious mind to be released later when you might gain enough information and knowledge and experience to be able to understand them at that point, bring them back into the conscious mind to determine for yourself at that point what it is that's nonsensical and irrelevant for you and what it is you determine you will keep believing in. So again, the subconscious and unconscious mind are used as different types of reservoirs to hold on to things you can't immediately process. But all of these negative beliefs are, in a sense, received by the conscious mind. Now, the only exception to this, and it's not really an exception, but just an augmentation, would be that if you have decided as a spirit to come into the reality with a certain theme you will explore, then you might allow the conscious mind to be, shall we say, more open to receiving some of these negative and fear-based beliefs that you will then use in your process to overcome and, shall we say, transform so that you can fulfill the theme that you chose to explore. But the fear-based beliefs are still received by the conscious mind, even though you make, shall we say, set up a likelihood of accepting them from a higher level to begin with as a representation of a theme that you will choose to explore.
Can you comment on the idea of compartmentalization and how that can shield one from the consequences of negative beliefs?
Compartmentalization, because you operate in a physical reality that has time and space and can have time lags and so on and so forth, can be used as a certain vibrational pattern to, in a sense, act as a filtering system so that you can achieve certain things on one level while holding off on certain kinds of consequences on another level. In other words, you're storing everything for later dissemination, for later analyzation, for later observation. And this is why when you pass into spirit, you cannot avoid the idea of life review, where you experience the consequences of every action that you took. Because now in that state of being, non-physically, you have dissolved all of the barriers. There is no more conscious, subconscious, and unconscious. It's all right there in one awareness. And thus, at that point, if not at any point earlier, you will experience every single idea, every single consequence, every single action, every single emotion, everything you may have put into the reservoir for later analysis will come flooding in during the life review if you do not deal with them in the physical reality at some point.
Can you say a little more about how you actually experience life review? I think one questioner was concerned about going through it, that it seems fearful or like
you
a
will
terrible
not experience
experience.
it in a fearful way. You will understand through a form of spiritual empathy what it is that any other person that may have been affected by a choice you made would have felt, would have experienced. But I know this sounds like a little bit of a contradiction or an oxymoron, but you experience all these things from a neutral position. You experience them fully as if it's happening to you, but since there is absolutely no judgment on it from the spiritual perspective, you are not experiencing any of the things you would heap upon yourself in physical reality, such as judgment for having done it. And therefore, while you can experience it in its fullest form, you do not actually experience the judgment that would amplify it in a negative way. Therefore, there is nothing to fear. It is simply absorbed as information and knowledge and experience and used in a positive way to determine what you will do next and how you will grow from those things, how you will learn from those things. I know this may not be absolutely clear to you, since most of you are absolutely not used to experiencing any lack of judgment at all on the things you do, on the negative ideas, on the negative fear-based beliefs. But by eliminating the idea of self-judgment, you simply can experience a full emotional experience of what someone else may have experienced in physical reality, but without the judgment, it is not experienced in any way, shape, or form that is fear-inducing.
So back to the idea of compartmentalization, an individual that's capable of compartmentalizing and then doing harm to thousands of people through negative acts and worldwide consequences for their behavior.
Yes.
When they go on this planet, you can experience those kinds of things, and yet when you go through life review, the idea of the karma or the punishment,
it's not karma.
None of that is going to happen, right?
You will experience the consequence of everything you did, and you will experience it from the points of view of every single person that was engaged or involved or affected in some way, shape, or form. You will experience it all as if it's happening to you, each and every individual, and not even immediately, but even those that have repercussions and ripples that extend sometimes for days, months, weeks, years, and centuries. You'll experience every single consequence and ripple effect that came as a result of the choices that you made. So it's not that you escape it, but you don't experience it as a punishment. You experience it as an experience.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. And regarding working with the subconscious, hypnosis has been a method used to explore it and assist medically. Is it beneficial, and can we improve our method and use, and how?
Again, like previous questions, it can be beneficial for those individuals that are attracted to use that particular permission slip. It can be very effective for many of you because it does help the majority of people in the collective idea of the themes you are exploring to unlock from any particular reality concept that you may be holding on to and truly be capable of letting it go. So it can be an effective permission slip because it taps into the collective unconscious of your reality and the themes that the collective may have agreed to explore, and lets you, in many cases, be relatively fluid with them or free of them. So yes, but it's still nonetheless a permission slip. And again, it can be more effective the more you understand how it can be a skeleton key of sorts to unlock every different kind of lock that may be experienced in your life. But again, it's up to the individual to decide whether or not that's something that they will gravitate to, that they are attracted to. Remember that you're hypnotizing yourself all the time anyway to believe certain things that aren't necessarily real, at least temporarily so. So all of you, in that sense, in order to have a physical reality, are under the influence of different types of hypnosis.
Okay, and is the subconscious mind like a doorway to the higher consciousness? Is the subconscious part of the mind or the higher self?
It's part of the mind, but it is the part, again, that acts as a go-between between the physical conscious mind and the unconscious mind to determine exactly what portions of information that reside in the unconscious mind and the higher self the physical mind is ready to process. So it acts as a kind of a gatekeeper, the subconscious mind, to let through whatever the conscious mind feels it is ready to deal with in terms of facing different belief systems and processing them and letting the negative ones go. So, of course, everything is